Hello and welcome to this edition of Hess World's podcast. I'm delighted to have as my guest today Paul Hunter. Paul is probably one of the most successful people I've actually had the pleasure of working with. We go back 20 odd years when we were together in a company called Compaq that was acquired by HP. Paul, having had some senior exec roles in the UK business, then went on to great things in the States. He now lives out in California. He spent 3 years as the chief of staff for Meg Whitman, who was the CEO of HP, when I think HP at the time, though it's still a great company at the time, I think it was the world's biggest IT company measured by sales. And then Paul went on to run the channel business for the world. And for the last, I think it's 5 years, Paul runs HPE in North America. So there's some really interesting things I want to explore. Someone who's grown up in the sales world, moving to the States. So I'm interested in the cultural differences that Paul experienced between business in the States and business over here in the UK, and the insight he got with being right next to the CEO of one of the world's biggest tech companies at a time when HP went through some major strategic changes. So I think we're in for some, hopefully a fascinating discussion, Paul. And let's very quickly start off back. Where did you grow up? Are you a Londoner?
Well, I'm a sort of on the outskirts of London. I would describe it from the unsexy part of London, suburban London, Orpington, Kent.
Okay.
Never sure whether it's actually in Kent or whether it's in the borough of Bromley.
I always like to know, are you a man of Kent or a Kentish man?
I think I'm a man of Bromley.
A man of Bromley. Oh, it's quite a good football team now, aren't they?
Not bad, indeed, yeah.
So, did you go to uni? You did go to uni.
I did, yes. I went to Sheffield Polytechnic, which is now Sheffield and Hallam University.
Right.
And at the time, my parents, I think, thought that I didn't really care about going to college. So I think that was probably true. I sort of worked quite early on in my life, and I got the very unimpressive results of CDN. If you remember, N was essentially...
And you didn't sort of show up for the exam, did you? Or something?
Well,
what was the N?
It's funny. The N
Don't tell me the N was in computer science.
The N was
or
in
something.
history, which is frustrating now. Being a big listener to the Rest is History podcast.
Hey, same here.
Yeah,
it's my favourite podcast. We don't need to give it a plug because it's so popular.
No, we don't. It's
amazing.
Amazing. It makes history so much fun.
I agree with you.
And I don't know whether you're listening to the current.
I'm usually a month behind. Well, we mustn't timestamp this because this won't go out straight away. But I'm on the Elizabeth the first bit.
Okay, that's a great sequence. There's too many of them for me to listen to them all. But I got started with the series in America in 1968.
Oh, wasn't it?
It was, yeah,
absolutely,
it's just
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah. Blimey. Hey, come on, back onto my podcast now, Rob. So you got an N for history.
I got an N for history. I went to Sheffield Polytechnic. I did international business or business studies with financial institutions as a specialisation. And probably the best thing about it was the internship. So it was a structure, 3 years of studying and a year of work. And I got an internship at NCR, which is kind of the start.
NCR, probably one of the best sales training. Certainly, I'm 10 years older than you, but always had one of the best sales training programs in the industry. I don't know if it...
Yeah, so I was an intern in order logistics. So I was partnered with a seller. So when they sold a computer system, I was responsible for doing the installation. It's essentially the delivery. And then I wanted a job when I graduated, and I needed a job because I wanted to travel. So me and my mate Bob travelled around the US, and in order to get your essentially money, I needed a job. So and the sales looked like it was going to be fun, so I applied for a sales job. And because I've worked there before, I got a job in the retail sales team, working for Jim Holmes in selling to department stores.
What, point of sale terminals?
Point of sale terminals. Team of 10 people. I think we had a quota of £10 million, team quota of £10 million with 10, so £1 million per person. And I probably didn't really see a customer for a long time.
Well, they wouldn't let you near one.
That's right. Until I moved within NCR, I got another job working for the PC business. So NCR got bought by AT&T.
Yeah.
Became AT&T Global Information Systems.
Who then sold them, then became NCR again, didn't they?
That's exactly right. So, yeah. So I had kind of a couple of years in the retail sales team and then 3 years selling PCs. NCR made PCs back in the day.
Wow.
Would you imagine it?
Wow. Did you know when you got into sales? Was it one of those things that, yeah, this is the right home for me? Did you feel that, or did it take a bit of getting used to?
No, I felt really I felt uncomfortable with it. It's super demanding. You know, sales training's hard. So, you know, you're put on the spot quite quickly and you're tested with some skills you don't really understand. You know, negotiation skills, presentation skills, telling a story. You know, we even had...
Did you like the buzz of the chase, though? You know,
I loved the competition.
Yeah.
I like the idea of solving a puzzle and you're competing with someone else to solve a puzzle and who can solve that fastest, simplest. So I loved that. And the thing that really sort of fascinated me, I loved business. I sort of intrigued by business.
Yeah.
And that's really why I did business studies. And my parents said, you know, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know, maybe I'll do business. I mean, I like reading the paper about business. So that's what I did.
Same reasons I like sales, by the way. I liked having a target. I like the freedom. I didn't realise it at the time, but when I look back, I've always liked a bit of freedom, and it gave me that. But I loved business as well, and selling what we were selling really got you into the heart of the client's business, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. And that freedom piece, again, is an interesting point you make. Not being tethered to a desk, being trusted to choose how you spend your time, being trusted to make sure you allocate your time in the right way. You know, having the freedom to go out and see customers whenever you want to see them, in the morning, in the lunchtime, in the evening. It's your decision. You've got your own time.
Yeah, we've probably taken that for granted, you know.
You just forget that
we've always done it.
We've always done it, and you sort of forget that there are jobs where you're tethered to a desk. Yeah. And probably my kids would say that of me probably now.
So NCR and
I worked for a sales manager there, Mark Pilgrim, and Mark got hired by Compaq, and Mark referred me. Stuart Curzon and Colin Wilson hired me. And
some great names you're dropping in here.
Yeah, and I sort of when I got the job, I said to Mark, you know, what's the quota? And he said 20 million. I said, Mark, you've got to be joking. Like, our whole team's got a quota of 10 million. How can it be 20? He said, don't worry about the quota. I was like, okay, we'll see how we'll give it a go. But it sounds enormous to me.
Had Compaq bought Digital and Tandem by then?
No, so at that time, it was pre-Tandem, pre-Digital. The UK business had basically had equal-sized sales teams, partner sales teams and customer sales teams. And there were 3 customer sales teams. One for retail and manufacturing, one for banking, and one for public sector. And each of them had a leader. And I worked for the finance sales team. And there were 30 people.
Was that Stuart Curzon?
Stuart ran all of them. Colin Wilson ran financial services. Rod Curry ran manufacturing retail at the time, I guess. And Paul Steels, I think, probably ran the public sector business. But this is a long time ago, so...
Yeah, this was late 90s.
Yeah, exactly. I joined in 95, and
must have felt like a startup, though, wasn't it?
It really did.
I think it was the at that time. I read it was the fastest company to $1 billion in sales at that time.
I think that might be true. I mean, we were racing to be $1 billion of sales in the UK, so. Before
that, going back before you joined, yeah.
Well, and so when I joined, we were, halfway through that journey, we were racing to $1 billion of UK sales under Joe McNally. So, and if you wanted something, you just spoke to someone. You know, it wasn't a process.
It was interesting because Compaq adopted the importance of the indirect sales model was very much built in from the get-go, wasn't it?
First meeting. Go and meet Richard Archer at Computer Centre.
Yeah.
Go and spend time with the Computer Centre sales team. Understand who their customers are, which of their customers are your customers, and make sure that you're working together. That was before you see the client.
Do you think you could go as far as to say Compaq and Proliant, which was the Compaq server range, was probably the single most important product that enabled computer center to scale?
Well, I think they were big with laptops and desktops before.
Okay.
So, the laptop business
Well,
was
Compaq were crucial in helping computer centers scale.
Compaq was certainly a very big brand.
Yeah.
A very big brand, but lots of other brands around as well those days. Toshiba and lots of screen manufacturers and
Olivetti, were they around?
Exactly, yeah, all of
Wang?
them. Yeah.
There's a joke there somewhere.
There is, but no, it was quite. But Compaq were a very profitable partner for Computer Center, and Computer Center were a great partner for Compaq. So, and HP were around as well. They were a different company. Digital were around. Those companies that.
So, did you feel in
IBM.
Compaq? Did the glove fit well?
I loved
quite quickly?
Compaq. I mean, funnily, I've just seen a lot of the people that I used to work with, and we still know each other 30 years on, and there's a lot of shared values there, and we worked really hard.
Were you in your late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah, I was in my mid-20s.
So those are impressionable.
26
I think they're
when I
very
joined.
impressionable, years, aren't they? Whoever you work for, if you have a successful experience, then that tends to last you, doesn't that live with you for the rest of your career?
Yeah, no, my first sales manager that really made a big impression on me, Mark Pilgrim. When there was 4 of us in a PC sales team, there were 2 outside guys, Mark and Roger, and there were 2 inside guys. I was one of them, me and a guy called David Fairhurst, and we were on a team quota, and the 2 outside guys were selling to the banks and were doing enormous deals. And my first sale was to Teachers Building Society for 2 PCs.
Yeah! Well, you remember it, don't you?
I do. And we massively overachieved our quota because Mark sold this enormous deal to NatWest Bank. And so I got some of the reward for that, for selling my 2 PCs. But he was one of the first. I mean, back in those days, people really sort of applied themselves, I think, to the sort of profession of selling. It was all the how do you allocate your time? How are you making sure you're pursuing the right people?
Yeah.
Fox-based training,
Yeah.
that's still some of the most influential training I've done. I still find that very valuable. I still think that's something we miss. We still don't actually know who's making the decision and where they are, and it's not about their title. I think that's become even more important now.
Totally agree.
And
totally agree.
What worked then, I think
You can see
you're
that
trying
through
to
your own
refine.
experience, can't you?
Yeah.
The organisation, obviously you're right at the top of HP, but you can see who's got the ear of the CEO, who's got the ear of you. If they did an org map, I mean, we don't go there, but who's the big influence on you? I bet it doesn't necessarily show up so readily on an org chart.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly. You look inside a very big company, HPE. We've got 70,000 employees, and we're buying lots of things from lots of people. And you think, well, who's actually making the decision? Is it the CIO? Is it the business unit leader?
Yeah.
There's all that. There's so much purchasing that happens in a line of business, in a business unit function, that actually potentially isn't technology that's being used for a function. So, in fact, there's a lot of that in American
Did you
companies.
like that bit of it? Because I've always liked that bit of selling. To me, it was like a game of chess to get to checkmate, and it was that B2B. Complex B2B selling always fascinated me.
Yeah, no, and I think it's something you can spend a lifetime on, and you still haven't learned everything.
Agreed, totally.
You're always learning. Yeah.
Totally. I bumped into you after I came into Compaq, and I didn't know it at the time. I'd been in a startup, and then I came into Compaq running financial services, and I inherited this team of dynamic, young, thrusting sellers, of which you were one, and people like Steve Short, Neil Wilson, Ian Pugh, Francis Gilman, Phil Dodsworth,
people, yeah.
And I found it very refreshing, very dynamic. It was a great environment.
Yeah, when I first joined that team, I remember thinking, okay, this is a different level. The people that I'm working with are very dynamic. I'd come from NCI where it was just a slower moving environment. They were more sophisticated sales pursuits. They were probably slightly more complex, but this was far more dynamic, far more immediate. And the people that were leading it were very, very smart, and were very quick and very accomplished. And generally they were a bit younger, but they've all gone on to do success. Most of them have all gone to do very successful things. So I was just like, okay, this is a different level. I've got to raise my game here. This is something different from what I've anticipated. And the level of speed was unrecognisable.
Yeah, I found, kept me young, actually. Kept me young.
Well,
because it was a work hard, play hard environment, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, when I first started, I lived in East London. I lived in Greenwich. We were based out of Richmond. We had to be in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I sold in the city. I'd then go into the city, do my sales calls, and then we had to be back in Richmond at the end of the day. It was being at the beginning, being at the end. That's how it originally started.
Yeah.
And then you'd basically download on the customer calls you'd done, and you'd basically give you an update to your sales manager. But I was going from East London to West London to East London to West London to East London every day.
And probably going out in the evening as well.
And probably going out in the evening as well.
And the city, I mean, I know you had the retail banking, investment banking, and insurance, what have you. But if you were selling into the square mile, that was one big adrenaline rush back then, wasn't it?
And I sort of had aspirations to be a banker. If someone asked me when I was, 17, what do you want to do? I'd be interested in being a stockbroker.
Yeah.
And I had a cousin that was worked for a broking firm, and I went to see him, and there was no chance I was getting a job there. Absolutely zero. I certainly didn't have the credentials to get a job as a banker. Nowhere close.
Yeah.
But to be selling in that environment was really stimulating.
Yeah.
It was exciting. I loved being able to walk from bank to bank to bank. And Eric Gales was the leader for investment banking. Basically, they hired someone else because he had too much business. So I got the smaller investment banks, and it was 10 to 15 sales calls a week.
What a great way of spending your sort of late 20s, early 30s. And then also what a great learning environment, which I'm sure stood you in good stead all the way through your career. Then HP came along, and I'll be honest with you, I loved, with hindsight, I had a wonderful time at HP, but at the time, it was announced that HP were buying Compaq. I must admit, my heart sunk because I was having fun at Compaq. I'd only been in a year. I came at the tail end of the Compaq journey, and HP came across to me as well. It was just arguably the first ever Silicon Valley startup all those years ago.
Yeah.
But it was a much more well established, structured business. Whereas I remember one of the first shocks for me was when they were talking about job levels in HP, and they said, well, we got to match up this job level with that job level. And I remember thinking, well, I don't even know what my job level is in Compaq. Do we even have job levels? Because it never mattered, did it?
No. You were basically an account manager or a sales manager.
And then we were bought by a company where that sort of thing really mattered, and the people we were working with were very conscious of their job level. So it was a big culture shock, I think.
Well, we'd also had the digestion of digital as well.
I'd come along after that.
So that had massively changed the company. Essentially, 4 times the number of employees were digital employees rather than Compaq employees.
And they were culturally very different than Compaq.
Again, a very different company. For good reasons, had big services business which Compaq hadn't had. It did have some services, but nowhere near the extent and sophistication of the digital business. And of course, you got all this digital heritage in the city, running big systems, heart of the Reuters business back in the day.
Yeah,
and
but not what I would never say digital had a particularly strong sales culture, because I think for a long period of time they didn't even pay commission. So you had the sort of the young dynamic sales force at Compaq who were making a few quid. I always thought digital was probably a more service, maybe even a more engineering centric business.
Yeah, maybe.
And then you had Tandem, who
They were like the old pros, weren't they?
Yeah, they'd make their quota, wouldn't they, by the end of sort of Q2, and then, you know.
I mean, we always used to, the comparison was like, how big's your quota? That was the metric of like how good are you? Like, we've got a $20 million quota. How big's your quota?
Yeah.
$1 million. Well, that's not very good, is it?
You don't take you seriously.
Yeah, but then when Bank of England was a very big customer, the tandem account manager, in his, I don't know how old he was, very experienced. He knew the governor of Bank of England.
Yeah. Roger Boak.
We thought
Roger Boak was my.
He's a great coach as well. If you wanted to listen to him, but they had we thought we were the bee's knees with access to the CIO. He had access to the governor.
Yeah.
So it was just a completely different level of selling.
I think I mentioned this to you before the podcast. I got to see the CIO of HSBC. Now, that's a senior role only because they used the tandem non-stop systems to drive their ATM network, and that mattered to him. That was a small spend area compared with the rest of the money they were spending with HP, but that was the only thing that you really cared about.
Yeah, and I mean that continues to be a thriving business. It's still running some core systems for some very big customers, so it has continued to do very well.
Let's move on to when you started getting into some of these really big jobs, because you ran the PC and printer business for the UK, and I always felt that was a bit of a shark tank. Really, there was some tough cookies in there. I think most of them were French, weren't they?
So, I worked for you running financial services, running one of the financial services sales teams, and I got one of my first competitive offers. So, I got an offer from a competitor, and I came to you and I said, Martin, I just want you to know that I'm going to leave in a month's time. I think you looked at me like, why are you telling me this? And you said, what do you want me to do about it? I said, well, I don't want you to do anything about it, but I've really enjoyed working for you. I just want you to know so that you can plan for the future. And I left it at that. And then you came back to me, I think a week later, and said, look, there's this job setting up the direct business in HP. But you'll be working for this French guy called Pierre Javert. Like, I want you to go and see him.
It's all coming back to me now. Pierre Javert. If you're out there, Pierre.
I still.
Bonjour.
Yeah,
Comment ça va?
Yeah, still get Christmas messages from Pierre, and I went to see him in Grenoble, and spent 2 hours with him, and he said, Paul, I think you can have a go at doing the job. So that was that. But possibly, I'm not sure if I hadn't got a job offer, the opportunity would have come to me.
Well, look, I'm going to blow smoke up your derrière, but you were bloody good, and you were worth keeping. But I always, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I always think you were, people wanted to offer you jobs, and you always took a very balanced view, and I don't think you were. I always thought you had a view which said, if the right job doesn't come along, I'm prepared to go. I'm prepared to leave. And I found that quite refreshing, actually, because there was a little bit of bravery about that. There was a little bit of, I can back I'll back myself outside of the company if the right job doesn't come along internally. Is that a fair observation?
No, exactly. I don't want to be dependent on anybody.
Yeah.
And, I've had, I got made redundant after 12 months at NCR. One of those very early redundancy experiences. I got made redundant, but I got put on garden leave for 12 weeks. I got myself another job while I was on garden leave, but then I actually got another job in NCR, so it worked out all right. It was just a learning experience. You know that I can find something else to do. It doesn't have to be this. I'm not dependent on the company. I need a few things to be in place, and one of which is I need to be stimulated. I need to be enjoying it. I need to be working for someone I really like. And I need to be learning. Yeah. And if those conditions in place, I'm very happy.
But that was a tough gig, wasn't it, in that PC printer business, because your bosses were quite demanding, weren't they?
Well, it was tough on two dimensions. Firstly, again, we were setting up a direct business within the context of a company that was 100% more or less through partners. And so there was a lot of internal conflict. I was on a leadership team with a peer who was responsible for business that went through partners, and I was responsible for a business that didn't go through partners, and often my business would come at the expense of his. And so doesn't look very conducive to a great leadership team. You know, there's a lot of conflict in that. So that was the first thing was hard. And then the second thing is, you know, Pierre and the team, they were super, super demanding. They were very demanding. They had operational rigor in a way that I hadn't been used to. They were very thoughtful, but persistent in very regular updates on what is or isn't working, not just in the performance, but productivity, which customers you're serving, what profitability is coming from, because now you're running your own, in theory, you're running your own business. Before, when you're looking at the profitability of a company, when you're selling via a partner, it's quite complicated to get that. Now it's quite straightforward. We know how much money we're making from each customer. We can run a portfolio of customers. We can manage the margin. We can start paying our sellers on margin. You know, it was much more of a how are you running a business than how are you running a sales team.
Yeah.
And but it was highly demanding. And I did several jobs there. I essentially led the sales team for that direct business. I worked for the general manager for the PC business in the UK, David Wright. I really enjoyed working for David. I had another couple of jobs working for him. I did partner sales working for him, and I did a kind of product category job. And then I got a job essentially being the general manager during a period of transition. So Josh Brenkel came over, and David had left, and Josh said to me, Paul, I hear good things about you, but I don't know whether you're part of the problem or part of the solution. And I really appreciated that. I was like, okay, well, at least there's no ambiguity here. Like, he hasn't made his mind up. He's open-minded because he doesn't know what problems are that need to be resolved. And that's quite refreshing, like, to be given. I'd never been given it so bluntly. Like, you actually could be part of the problem. Hopefully I'm not, but you could be. That's a possibility.
I like it though. I do like it. Yeah. I think you must have been good at stakeholder management because you had a lot of demanding stakeholders.
Well, I had some good training. You know, the leader for the business in Europe, Eric Cador, again, I learned a huge amount from him, and he was highly demanding. And again, operationally, every Friday, we would have a call with all the country leaders, and you would have to give an insight into your business in 10 minutes and in front of your peers. And Eric was very sharp, and he was very to the point, and he was very precise, and he was quite impatient. Yeah. And you've got three businesses. You've got a consumer business, you've got an SMB business, you've got an enterprise business, and they all travel in different speeds, in different directions, with different dynamics. And you better be on top of it all, and not just one part of it.
It's intellectually demanding, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to learn a consumer business. You know, you're selling to Dixon's, you're selling to Tesco's, and you're one of their categories. That is a completely different business from selling to SBC or SG Warburg or one of the investment banks or whoever it may be. They are completely different businesses, run completely differently, sold to in different ways, with different skills needed, and you need to know both.
So did you do such a fantastic job doing that Meg Whitman, when she was looking for chief of staff, thought, hey, Paul Hunter.
Well,
so how did you end up going from that, which was a big senior job, to chief of staff of the CEO of the whole of HP?
Well, I love business, and so but also I love the fascination of I'm trying to unlock customers and get closer to understanding what they're really trying to accomplish. And I had the good fortune to have a sponsor in one of my customers. So I used to sell to SG Warburg before it became SBC, before it then eventually became part of UBS. And he was an ex-sales leader from BT, and by the name of Richard Ward. And I was bringing an exec into one of the meetings, and he said to me, okay, well, what preparation you've done? I was bringing a CEO, and he said, what preparation have you done? I said, well, I've done some meeting preparation. And he said, well, have you done the meeting choreography? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, CEOs don't meet each other without an anticipation and understanding of what's going to take place. They don't just turn up and start chatting. They're not just generous with their time. They're going to see, am I going to learn something? They're not prepared just to trust you that this is going to... And so he really educated me what the expectations were of a CEO to CEO meeting. And when Meg came to visit the UK, I hosted her for some meetings, and her previous chief of staff, Jackie Ferguson, said to me, is this something you'd be interested in doing? And I said, I don't really know anything about it, but I do want to understand how big American corporations make decisions. And so if I have a chance to learn that, then yeah, it is something I'm interested in. And so Jackie essentially put me into the process for her replacement. So that's how it happened. And it sort of really happened. In particular, we had a really good meeting with Joe Hermani. So Joe came in to meet Meg. There's quite a few, Martin Halliwell's still in touch with Meg. There's some, some of the leaders of really good partners and businesses are still in touch, and they found those meetings to be really valuable, but in both directions. So that meeting, Joe's a great storyteller. He's on top of his business, and he's enthralling, and so I think she enjoyed it. I think she got some.
So Joe Hermani's charm resulted in a great meeting, which Meg Whitman gave you the credit for, and helped you get the job as chief of staff. Is that basically it?
Yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it.
So now this gets to really interesting territory. So off you go to the States, into Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
As chief of staff, the CEO of probably what at the time was probably the biggest IT company measured by sales in the world.
Well, it was over $110 billion of revenue.
Yeah.
It's over 300,000 employees, 100,000 contractors, 7 lines of business, thousands of partners. The scale was just
so. How was
gigantic.
it? How was the? Was there any entry pain to the job? Did you find you had to change pace, or? I'm interested to know, because I think that would be a job I'd be terrible at, because.
Well, the first thing is a chief of staff job. What is that job?
Yeah.
The answer is it depends who you're working for. It can be everything and it can be nothing. It can house the strategy function. It can do projects. It can hold responsibility for briefing of the board, or it can be looking after someone's calendar. Those are the two bookends. And I was sort of super fortunate that Meg had got extensive experience of working with chiefs of staff, and so therefore she was pretty familiar with using them extensively. Yeah. And so, it was a massive readjustment that I had not anticipated. I thought that I was used to the pace of the PC business. I could understand multiple different businesses and how they were run. I was used to working hard, and that I was going to take this in my stride. And within 2 weeks of arriving, I was shocked at how much more intense it was than I had anticipated. And the energy and effort and dedication that a senior leader of a company puts into a company is eye-watering. Yeah. I don't know what I thought it was going to be like, but it was certainly so much harder. And so one of my first jobs was to make sure that the CEO was briefed for our big customer event. And she would typically be doing between 30 to 50 customer meetings in a very intense period of a week. And she would want to know, what's expected of her in each of those meetings and what was going to happen. Were there any problems that were going to arise? What were the opportunities? She would essentially want to know what's the role that she needed to play and how was she going to play it. And so I got given the briefing document, which probably was 400 pages thick. and big companies, they can produce a lot of work. Yeah. You've got to be super careful of that. And I thought, well, she's not going to read 400 pages. And so I'll skim read it, make sure that on the surface this looks like it makes sense, and then we'll handle the meetings accordingly, and I'll react accordingly in the meeting. And she called. We were due to fly on Sunday. On the Saturday morning, my family had not come out. I'm 2 weeks into the job. I'm in glorious California, staying in my rented house with the sun shining,
living the dream.
Living the dream, and the phone rings. It's her. I've got a special ringtone for her, which still gives me PTSD. And I was like,
I won't ask you what it is.
It's just like a klaxon.
Oh.
And I'm like, hi, Meg, how you doing? And she says, Paul, have you read the briefing? Well, I've sort of read some of it. And she then proceeds to take me, spend an hour and a half with me. And she sort of said, look, this isn't good enough. And she was spending 4 hours of her Saturday morning preparing herself before she flew on Sunday. And it just made me realise the expectations are so much higher. The level of performance required is so much more demanding. There is no off. CEOs, they don't take the weekend off.
Yeah.
They're either working or they're thinking about their families, and that's it. They're not playing tennis. They're not working on improving their golf handicaps. They are working out, how am I going to drag, promote, inspire, break through with a massive gargantuan business, and they are absolutely dedicated to it. And you better be able to help, or you need to get out of the way. So it was a really, really tough learning curve. And the other thing about it is, it's
beautifully described, Paul. I mean, I really feel, I'm sure the people who are going to watching the podcast have got a real feel for that. That's beautifully described.
But it's
exhausting just hearing you talk about it.
You're not the chief, and there's no staff.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'd be crap at it.
You also go from leading a relatively big team, or whatever, 300 or 400 people, to leading a team of 3. And you're used to expressing your opinion, and now no one wants to hear your opinion. I mean, you're the junior person on the senior leadership team by far. And so the other leaders who have earned their stripes running big businesses and engineers and incredibly successul and impressive people, they don't want to hear from.
But they all wanted to be your friend a bit, didn't they? They all, because you were a gatekeeper. You were the key gatekeeper.
Some did, some didn't. Some needed it, some didn't. And so you're a window into that world.
Yeah.
And some people would get a lot of value from it, and some people would get no value from it. And again, it's another of the learnings. You don't work for the CEO. You work for the CEO and the leadership team. You need to make both successful.
Yeah.
If you make one successful at the expense of the other, that's a big problem. I learned that very quickly.
Yeah, so was that sort of an MBA in, you did it for 3 years, so was it a 3-year MBA that essentially you...
Yeah, it essentially was. I've got a Rolodex of experiences that I've witnessed. I'm not the principal. I didn't make the decisions. I wasn't the intellect, but I observed. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of leaders perform in different environments, whether it's in customers, whether it's being sold to, whether it's selling to. I've seen the restructuring of the company, the separation of the company. I've seen acquisitions. I've seen bankers.
So you were with Meg Whitman when HP was essentially broken up into
when
HP.
I was in the room when
business.
I was in the room when that decision was made. I was in the room when we decide not to make an additional bid for a company that we're trying to buy. I mean, the thing that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to take a long time to earn personal trust, to earn professional trust, and no time for the personal trust. I mean, forming personal relationships is always felt quite comfortable, and it was the inverse of that. So the professional trust was immediate. Day 2, I was getting briefed on what the strategic options for the company were. All 5, 6, 7 of them. And I was shocked by that. Okay, wow! I had no idea that this thinking goes on, and so that was sort of mind opening. And obviously, I got to see the conversations with the board. So you get to see how a board interacts with a leadership team, what questions they're asking, what they want you to think about, how you're trying to think about the long-term health of the company. And so that was incredible. But then from a personal side, you know, the CEO has immense demands on their time. So they haven't got time to be shooting the breeze about like how my son's doing at like high school. You know, not to say that she was not interested. Of course she was interested, but the demands on the time are so intense that you don't have the same opportunity to build sort of personal relationships. So that took a lot longer time to build. But the professional trust was 100% until it wasn't, and you put that at risk because you're not competent enough.
Well, you did it for 3 years, so you must have been damn good at it.
I learned. I realised that I was my performance was not good enough. I was not on it enough. I was not responsive enough. I hadn't understood how committed I had to be.
Yeah.
And I learned. And you know, I was told very explicitly, you know, 4 weeks into the job, one of the leaders come and said, "Look, I'm not sure you can do this job." And I sort of said to him, "You got to be joking. My family are coming out on Monday. What do you want me to do? Send them back? My wife has given up her job. I've taken my kids out of their schools." And it's like, maybe, but this is a pretty demanding job. Yeah. And if you can't do it, then we actually can't accommodate you. So it's like, okay, well, I better work it out.
So you did work it out. You did work it out. Wow. What a fantastic 3 years. I mean, we spent an awful lot more time
and I loved
talking
it.
about that.
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was super intense.
One huge adrenaline rush, wasn't it?
It was an adrenaline rush, and it was
intellectually
energy. Yes, exactly. It was energy sapping. It was highly demanding. It was really difficult, like to have enough time and capacity for my family. I didn't do a good job of that.
I know your lovely wife.
And she
must have been a rock to support you, and you know, because you must have been flying all over the show.
Yeah, exactly, and with zero notice. So
you couldn't do that without a stable home life, I would have thought.
You can't do it without an incredible partner.
No.
So my wife's very accomplished. She was a solution architect, worked for Hitachi Data Systems. She was the only female solution architect in a team of 50. She was very, very capable. She worked for News International. She got a very, very good job. And she gave that up. And in the first year, she stayed at home, looked after our kids, did all the organisation and everything that revolved around them. And that didn't make her happy. No, so she had to do that. And so then she can't do the career that she's trained in, which is to be a solutions architect and to travel, be a systems engineer. So she retrained. She became a technical writer. She worked for a startup. She got her own job. She joined the Right Society. She joined Technical Writing Society. It's a highly demanding job. So she completely changed her life in order that we could move. And so that was the far bigger, harder thing. I was dedicated to work. And so it wouldn't have happened without her, not even close.
Good shout out for Mrs. Hunter,
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's move on to, you then ran the worldwide channel business, but the job you've been doing for the last 5 years is running the North American sales organisation. Just to give everybody who's watching and listening a flavour, the cultural differences you see, the sales cultural differences, and we can go on to some of the societal things as well. Is there much of a difference between selling and running a sales organisation in the States or North America compared with UK?
Well, I would say I'm still, firstly, I'm still learning. It takes a while to unstitch what the United States is. First thing is, I'm in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley's a bubble. I'm in California. California is different from other states. So you're in Silicon Valley within California, within the United States, and that's very different. My brother lives in Indiana. Indiana's very different from California. So I sort of think of the United States as like a slightly more tightly knit version of Europe. There's a ton of differences from one coast to the other, from north to south, east to west. And of course, the scale of the country is just enormous. So it takes a while to unstitch what is it to be American. I would one of the first questions I would always ask is like help me understand a bit about the right to carry a weapon.
Probably one of the biggest cultural differences between the UK and the States, I would say, is that particular issue.
It really is. And it took me, I guess I would repeatedly ask that question because I couldn't wrap my head around it. And basically, fundamentally, it's like a right to be an American. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You can argue one way or another, and I don't sort of want to get involved in that. But when you come from a country where that it's illegal to hold arms, and unless you've got a license, and it's highly restricted, and the number of gun crimes is obviously significantly less per head, it's difficult again to wrap your head around it. But it's just a fundamental principle of being an American. That's what it is. And so it took me at least 2 years for that one thing to seep in. I would say now, it's only since my daughter has gone to college for me to understand how fundamental college sports are.
Yeah.
I've been going to my daughter's at the University of Oregon. She's a Duck. That would have meant nothing to me 2 years ago, but I've been to their games. It's electric. There's 60,000 fans in a stadium, and that's, by the way, that's a small stadium. They've got 10 stadiums.
That's beyond our comprehension, isn't it?
And it's electric. It's such amazing sport in the US, and so there's a deep affinity for what college you went to, which sporting team you support, and if you're not a part of that, you don't understand it. It takes a while. So how does that add up in terms of selling in the US? Well, the ambition in the US is unbounded. And of course, I get a lot of exposure to that because I'm in California and I'm in Silicon Valley. All the venture capital firms, not all, but some of the very biggest ones are on Sand Hill Road. That's 5 miles down the road from where I live. I cycle up that road every Saturday and Sunday. The access to capital is immediate if you're good enough. But the quality of the people is extraordinary. They're incredibly skillful, demanding investors.
Do you feel like you're at the centre of the... Do you actually feel I'm in the centre of the tech world here? So whatever the latest, and obviously we're into the early stages of a massive revolution, AI revolution. Do you actually feel that you're at the centre of that world?
I'm not sure I feel that I'm at the centre of it, but you feel that you've got proximity to it. And so, in the past 15 years, the US GDP has massively outstripped that of Europe. 15 years ago, the GDP of Europe was larger than that of US.
You know what, Paul? There's an interesting statistic that the poorest state in the United States, Mississippi, has a higher GDP per head than the UK.
Okay.
And that's happened only within the last sort of 10 years or so. Because if a country grows at 3% a year versus a country that grows at 1% a year, as you compound that over a period of time, you get significant divergence. And that's what's happened, frankly, with the States and the UK. I hate to admit it as a proud Brit.
Yeah. It's a little bit puzzling, coming back. I could probably come back to the UK once or twice a year. And the UK has got the fundamental opportunity to develop amazing businesses. Particularly in our line of work, there are lots of incredible founder runners. I mean, we talked about Computer Center. I mean, that's an incredible business, highly successful business. But I'm struggling to think of a new world leader brand that wasn't around 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Do you think, you see, I think in the UK we've got a mindset now, and I think most people in business are incredibly frustrated in the UK at the moment. I think there is a sense that profit and wealth creation is a sort of dirty word in the UK. It certainly feels like we're not as aspirational as we need to be. But would you say in the States that is my sense is it's not a dirty word. It is seriously something. I think you mentioned it when we were talking beforehand, that it's a badge of honour.
I think it is. I mean, Americans, again, these are huge generalizations because you're talking about a huge population with a lot of diversity and a lot of variety. But in general, there's admiration for successful wealth creation. There's admiration for successful business owners. There's admiration for successful leaders. There's no resentment. So if people have done well and they are wealthy or they are well off or they've made their own money, that comes with a huge sense of admiration. And
do you feel when you come back here it's different?
I don't know. I'm not here enough to sort of really judge it. There's a really vibrant business community here. There's some amazing business leaders. You know, I did some work. I used to be on the Prince's Trust Technology.
Yeah.
With now Sir Richard Holway. You know, the network of very accomplished leaders there. They're as impressive as the best leaders that I've come across in the United States. So there is the potential to be world class.
That would suggest it's not the individuals, that maybe it's a cultural thing.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's sort of, you know, the United States is a young country. It doesn't have the history that Great Britain has, or at least it's a relatively young country. It's only really ever known success, really, and that breeds confidence, and so it's very normal to meet people that have got very lofty aspirations. Yeah. That you think that's mad. Like you will really want to completely solve this problem that's been unobtainable for a yeah, I want to do that. So I just feel that the level of aspiration may not be higher, but it's more consistent. I've been very privileged to spend some time with down with SpaceX as an example, and
phenomenal.
Whatever the whys and wherefores, that is an amazing business, and the speed with which they are innovating is mind-bending.
Put whatever you think of Elon Musk's politics to one side, the man is a phenomenon. He is, to me, he's the Leonardo da Vinci of our current
I have
era.
no insight, and I'm not sharing anything that is not completely in the public domain, but if you go and visit them, they will start talking to you about how they the mission is to repopulate Mars. And the first time that was said to me, I thought it was funny, because I thought I couldn't really wrap my head around. Is that really the aspiration? Yeah, that really is the aspiration. And if we need to get 5,000 people to Mars in a week, we need 7 rockets. They need to do 10 trips a day. They need to be reusable. They need to have this much capacity. It's a math game. So that's what they're building, and with incredible speed.
It's phenomenal, and it's a phenomenal. Yeah, I'm a massive admirer of America and its role in the world, and you know, and that part of America. What a reservoir of talent and ideas that are coming out of that small area, and obviously it's a virtuous circle, isn't it?
It is.
You know, I guess
thinking about it, America hasn't really known failure. You know, Britain, we've known failure. You know, we were at the heart of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. Well, we were the founders.
We were the founders of the UK was the founder of the Industrial Revolution, and that got overtaken by other things. And so, you know, we've lost wars. We had an empire. We were at the heart of the empire. Yeah. And the US.
I think we've lost a sense of self-belief, though. I do feel that. I mean, we can have a longer conversation. We won't have time. But I think we're a great country with a great past. I think we just need to find a little bit of self-belief and feel and become an aspirational society.
It's got incredible assets, the UK.
Yeah.
It's just got incredible assets.
Just before we go, we can't not talk about AI,
mm-hmm.
and we could probably spend ages on that. Where are you on the impact of AI on the industry, but also on humanity? Where are you in that discussion?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm a deep thinker about it, because there are lots of people that think about this very deeply. But in general, I'm an optimist. I think it's going to bring some great benefits. Just as, I mean, I have a tiny genetic disorder which I would not know about if the human gene had not been essentially broken down and understood. So I'm a personal beneficiary of the advance in technology. I think we will continue to be the beneficiaries of technology advancing, but the speed with which it is moving and being adopted is incredible. I don't know whether you follow Mary Meeker, like the original .com essentially analyst, but you know she still publishes a report every year. It's available on the web. You should post a link of it. It's incredible. You just look at the adoption of AI. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
You know, I think the stats are ChatGPT path to 1 million users was 5 days. You know, I think it's something like the path to 800 million users in whatever the space of time is. It's, you know, the path to how much of that is happening outside the United States. That the adoption cycle is incredible.
It's going to be massively disruptive. Job categories will go, but new job categories will emerge.
Yeah,
we don't even know
yet. We will adjust,
and so there'll be disruption. But my sense is it will be massively beneficial for humanity. Will there be downsides to it? Yeah, of course there will. But I think the net will be, I think, massively positive to us as a species.
I mean, think about the provision of healthcare in Africa.
Yeah,
it's going to be completely transformed.
It is.
You know, just as, again, Starlink are doing an amazing job of providing digital access wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
It's, you know, a lot of those barriers have been broken down. So anyway, net of all that, I'm an optimist. I think technology has served us well. Of course, we need to be thoughtful about it, but I think there are a lot of intelligent people that will provide thought to it. And so hopefully we'll be careful.
Last question before we sign off. I mean, do you still feel very much an Englishman abroad? You know, do you still Arsenal? I think you were. I mean, and I think the interesting thing is your kids, United States versus England.
Well,
who do they support?
Well, my son is a massive Tottenham Hotspurs fan, which is a bit of a problem given he was born in Highbury.
You were an Arsenal fan, weren't you?
Well, I wouldn't describe myself as a proper football fan. Okay. I think you've got to go regularly.
Yeah. He's a Spurs fan.
He was born in Highbury, so he should be an Arsenal fan. But when he turned up to his first kids' game and all his friends were wearing Spurs kits, he didn't fancy that. So he, unfortunately, has got the burden of being a Spurs fan.
But United States versus England, who would they support?
In soccer, in football, England.
Good man.
I mean,
you haven't completely gone to the dark side.
You've got to be rooting for England, haven't you?
I think we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Oh dear, this could go on for another hour. But congratulations on an amazing career. You've never been, but I've always felt you've been true to yourself, Paul. The guy that I knew that I worked with so many years ago, I saw you as a top talent there, and it's great to see that you've.
Well, I hope it's not over.
No.
I think one of your previous interviewees was talking about 2 mountains and getting to the top of one mountain, and then you've got a second mountain. I'm still hopeful there's more to come, more learning, more opportunities to be uncomfortable, doing stuff like this, but, helping people. I can imagine doing something completely different as well. So we'll see what the future holds.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, great to be with you. Thanks, Martin.